This video is sponsored by Squarespace. A small but substantial percentage of COVID-19 patients are experiencing long-term problems with their sense of smell or taste. Food tastes really bad, or it doesn't taste like anything at all, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. That's the bad news as of this November 2021 update. The good news is most people who experience these taste and smell symptoms do get better. And for everybody else, there do seem to be some promising treatments on the horizon, some that are surprisingly simple.
We're going to be using vitamin A drops in the nose to try and regenerate the smell receptors.
The doc does not suggest trying that one on your own, but we are going to talk about some simple things you can try. Of people diagnosed with COVID-19, maybe half seem to be experiencing some loss of smell or taste. Of those people, about 10% are having persistent problems. Everybody else goes back to normal after about a month. These numbers are real shaky for reasons that we'll get to, but you figure 10% of 50%, that means 5% of people diagnosed with COVID-19 are getting long-term problems with taste and smell. Remember that flavor is the combination of those distinct senses, along with a few other things like the heat of chili. One of the reasons scientists take these numbers with a grain of salt is that people are often not able to tell the difference between smell and taste and other chemosensory stuff that we experience when we're eating, so we really aren't really sure which part of us isn't working right. Also, these taste and smell problems seem to be affecting different parts of the world differently. Keep in mind that a map like this reflects where the studies are being done more so than it reflects where the problems are happening. So less developed countries are massively underrepresented. But that study and this more recent one find that Western COVID-19 patients, they are maybe twice as likely to experience taste or smell problems than their counterparts in East Asia. It's not nearly as big a problem in the East. That could be a geographic thing, reflecting the virology of the particular strains and the variants in different parts of the world. This study finds ethnicity to be a factor. That much alone suggests there's a difference in how the virus attacks different groups of people in this respect. And how exactly does the SARS-CoV-2 virus attack all of this and therefore our experience of food and drink? Well, we still don't really know, but
we don't think the virus infects the smell receptors directly like other viruses have done in the past.
We've gone back to our friend Dr. Carl Philpott, professor of rhinology and olfactology at the University of East Anglia. As a researcher and as a physician, Dr. Philpott has been up to his elbows in this problem since the pandemic started, and he's still seeing tons of COVID patients at his clinic. Anyway, he was saying they don't think COVID affects the smell receptors directly.
And that's because the spike protein on the surface of the virus appears to be accessing cells via something called an ACE receptor. And that receptor probably exists only on the cells that sit around the smell receptors in the top of the nose. So it's probably having an indirect impact by infecting those cells around it and then affecting the cell layer in general and causing either some sort of distortion or disruption of nutrient supply or blood flow to the smell receptors themselves. Whatever happens, the smell receptors obviously get knocked out because they're not working properly and people are losing the sense of smell.
And of course, this is all distinct from the normal smell or taste loss we get when we get a cold or a flu or something like that. That's generally caused by congestion. It's like pinching your nose. Air just can't get up there, and so you don't smell things right. This is different. With COVID, it tends to come on really, really fast all at once and often before any other symptoms. But a lot of time has passed since we first talked to Dr. Philpott at the beginning of the pandemic. That video is linked in the description. Now we have a lot more people recovering, and that may be, in a way, leading to the rise of a different symptom called parosmia, or smell distortion. Dr. Philpott says he's seeing lots of people in the clinic who are recovering from COVID-19. They've regained smell or taste, but they're still not smelling or tasting right. Everything is wrong. They smell delicious food, and it smells like rotting fish or something like that. Philpott thinks this might be an indication of a partial recovery. Some of their smell receptors have come back online, but other ones haven't.
So, for example, the smell of a rose is probably about 13 different molecules. And if you can only pick out 6 out of 13, you get a distorted signal. Obviously, the more closer you get to the kind of 13, so if you get to 10, you might kind of recognize that pretty much smells like a rose, but it's not quite the smell of rose I remember before, but it's enough of a recognition to get that sort of sense of what it is. So that's the sort of what tends to sort of be happening with people is you're getting this kind of slow kind of partial recovery, and then they're getting this distortion.
There's also research indicating that taste is affected by COVID, true taste, as they say, those simple, sweet, salty, bitter type sensations that we get on our tongue. Experts have hypothesized that taste disruption might be an indication of the virus attacking deeper in our nervous system, into our brains.
There is obviously a theory that if it was invading more centrally, it might disrupt true taste as much as smell. However, there is also a suggestion that that some of the taste receptors perhaps are vulnerable to attack by the virus directly as well. So perhaps if there is true taste disturbance, it's just down to a local problem rather than a central problem.
Again, they don't really know, and they don't claim to. Another problem is that it's hard to gather data about taste and smell issues on patients who are really sick with COVID, because if you can't breathe, you're not going to be complaining to your doctor about how dinner tastes weird, right? Also, people with these symptoms are likely to be very infectious, and so scientists aren't really excited about getting up close to them to test objectively whether it is a smell or a taste problem, for example.
The true objective tests come in when you do things like MRI scans where there's a smell present. That's called functional MRI.
They put you in the machine and they look inside you and they see what lights up when you smell something.
For our trial that we're about to start, we're actually going to be doing functional MRI for participants before and after the drops that they receive.
And that's the trial where they're going to be putting vitamin A up people's noses. A previous trial in Germany found that to be effective.
Retinoic acid, which is the key ingredient of vitamin A, is thought to help with the DNA repair process in cells. So the idea is it's helping those smell receptors to kind of turn over and start to regenerate again.
I guess as I'm sitting here thinking about this, if I put that on YouTube, people are going to go out and buy vitamin A capsules and smear the oil inside their nose. And is that a terrible idea, or maybe is that worth a shot?
Well, they should probably do it on the direction of a specialist at this stage until we've done the trial, because obviously we don't yet know. Sort of, we want to do the trial to get some sort of better evidence around it. So yeah.
What you can do yourself is smell training. There's a link in the description to Fifth Sense. This is a UK-based charity Dr. Philpott works with. Go to support and resources and look for Smellability. That's the name of the program, Smellability. There's a procedure here for smell training with stuff that you have around your house. You can do that. But the procedure that has been most studied is using essential oils, specifically lemon, rose, clove, and eucalyptus. I got something like those four in this pack they sold at the grocery store. It's not quite the same thing, but those four are just the most studied smells, not necessarily the most effective smells. These are probably fine. And then ideally, it's not quite as simple as smelling the open bottles. There's a whole thing where you put some drops into jars and use an inhaler stick, but the procedure is linked in the description. Read all about it. You literally just smell different strong smells twice a day, every day for weeks. And in theory, it's kind of like physical therapy to repair a muscle or retrain a muscle, get your brain to reestablish new connections through your nervous system. You stimulate your nervous system into regenerating its abilities. You may have seen some viral TikTok where people try burning citrus fruits and stuff like that, and they say that brings back their sense of smell or taste. Well, in practice, that may be a less studied, less systematic form of smell training.
I've just actually received the reports from a study that I was involved with for smell training, which does seem to suggest a benefit, but the numbers in the study were quite small. So we're looking to do some more work around that, and there are a number of studies around the world that are sort of looking to provide more evidence on that. The evidence for pre-COVID for other viruses for smell training was generally pretty good. Not to say it worked for everybody.
But it's something that you can try, and at the very least, smelling things every single day would allow you to track your symptoms over time in a way that could be really useful information for you or your doctor. Simple, easy things can be really effective, and now is normally when I would make a super smooth transition to talking about Squarespace, the sponsor of this video. Feels a little weird to do that in the context of talking about something so serious, but I think this video provided people with really useful information. It's important stuff, and quality content has to be paid for by someone. I'm super glad that Squarespace has chosen to sponsor my channel. And therefore, here we are talking about Squarespace. A website from Squarespace can help you sell your content too. You can make a members-only area on your site now, maybe for your instructional cooking videos.
You can now organize, categorize, and curate your videos. to showcase your classes beautifully and customize the presentation to fit your brand. Your audience can browse and find the class that's right for them using categories you define, such as class type or level of difficulty.
All you gotta do is go to squarespace.com and start playing around with a website template like this for free. When you're ready to pay to publish it or to register a domain name, think of me, use my code RAGUSIA, and you will save 10%. Thank you, Squarespace. And thanks again to all of the clinicians and the researchers all over the world who've been working so hard for so long on this freaking horrible problem. We don't deserve you. And everybody, if you haven't gotten that vax yet and you can, please get that vax. I've had 3 doses now. I feel real good about it. Get that vax, stay alive, keep enjoying food.